So without further ado, let's begin with the very first panel of the day. It's called Evolve, Talent Pipelines, Nurturing Tomorrow's Retail Leaders. Join me in welcoming the panelists. Mr. Aseem Jagdare, CHRO Arvind Fashions Limited. Chitra D. Ram, Director HR Pizza Hut, North and South Asia, Yum Restaurants International. Let's put our hands together for Ms. Chitra D. Ram. Mr. G.R. Venkatesh, Chief Human Resource Officer, Reliance Retail Limited. Mr. Harsh Aparanji, President and CHRO, Landmark Group, India. Ms. Nandini Mehta, CHRO, Metro Brands Limited. And now, to moderate this panel, welcoming to the stage B. Venkataramana, former Group President, HR, Landmark India. Ladies and gentlemen, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So you heard the Titan Venkat and now former Landmarker Venkat here to moderate this session. Yes, if I look back, been 2 decades in the retail industry. Started way back in 2005 when Reliance Retail was formed. I still remember in the boardroom at Makers, we had the whole top echelon of Reliance there, including Mr. MTA, Manoj Bhai, and all of them. And KSA Technopack came in and presented the project. I think that's before Biju even joined the company. This was in October 2005. And at that time, Mr. Mukesh Ambani's dream was, I'm investing 25,000 crores. And by 2010, I want this company to be a 100,000 crore company. But evolving retail was not that easy, is what he thought. I mean, what he finally understood. A B2C business was very different. And in 2008 or 9, we had already invested some 9,000 crores, and the turnover hadn't even reached 4,000 crores. So that was what the difficult times of how retail really evolved over the years. And at that time, the mandate for HR was to bring in about 50,000 people. And the joke was, trespassers are recruited. And anybody in their CV had retail there. We didn't have a search engine those days. Google was not popular. But having retail on their CV was brought in to be interviewed and taken on board. So that is how retail started. And from there, moved to today, highly digitized. It moved from, and it's a very different cup of tea. I mean, e-commerce has also evolved over the years. And that evolution we've seen, a lot of people come into retail, have grown into retail. In 2005, there were only about 2-3 players. It was Shoppers, it was RPG Spencer's, and maybe Titan at that time, which was a specialized retail. And from then, today, the whole scenario of unorganized retail changing to organized retail and how it's evolved is what we have to see. From a human resources point of view, when we were given the mandate to recruit 50,000 people, it was not easy at all to get the right people. So I saw when I was in Landmark Group. What we did was we actually kind of grew people within the organization. So from shop floor to C-suite was what we had in mind. And I'm very, very happy to see that a lot of them from the shop floor or from the warehouse or from any other functions, moving up to become, the CEOs of the company. And that is what has changed the whole gamut of HR. And HR has become very, very interesting here because at the bottom of the pyramid, it is not very easy to retain people, as we all are aware. At the drop of the hat, somebody offers a 500 rupees more, and then they join. And then even at 9 o'clock in the night, when the last customer comes in, he needs to have a smile on his face, which is not very easy. And you heard Venkat saying that, 9 years he didn't have a Sunday to spend time with his family. But so are the nuances of this industry. And we will now hear from our panel, a very, very distinguished panel we have here with us. I think each of them are stalwarts of their own, of the organizations they belong to. And I'm sure the session, we will have some questions. They will speak to us, and then we want you to ask questions from them. So that is how the session will be modeled. So maybe first on the topic, today, harnessing human potential as leaders, leaders. Shall we start with Aseem? Maybe you can tell us what your organization does to kind of, drive this and make sure you have brought leaders onto the table.
Thank you so much. Good morning. First of all, I'm looking forward to a great day of learning today. What I want to share is not, surely I don't think is a unique practice in any sense, but something which I think is most important to us, and also something which I know will have the most impact in the long run. It's come out of the insight we got out of our conversations on campuses when we spoke with people, and we realized that our old presentations where we spoke about long careers with AFL were just not hitting the mark, and we realized that we are missing something. One, the organization is average age of 28, 29, somewhere there, so that's not what resonates. Second, my employee doesn't really measure the career in terms of years spent in the organization. They're probably looking for more unique experiences, stories that they can tell their peers, and that's what they want to count in terms of what they've collected in an organization. And we had to therefore look at that when we planned our career development and growth for our employees. What we're trying to do is to change the narrative in terms of how we want to present career opportunities to our people. And we're trying to shift that to, let's say, encourage our leaders to give opportunities early. Now, it's an extension of growth within, but also trying to break that mold of, minimum experience required kind of narrative. We are trying to change that to saying, why don't we evaluate and see and take that risk with our own employees and give them that opportunity early, because that's what will give them the confidence to grow here within the organization. And as we're doing that, I think two parts which we have to take care of. One is to build enough conversation as well as consensus on this change of the narrative and change of the process. Merely, let's say, reducing the years of experience required won't suffice. We want our leaders and our managers to be comfortable with that concept. So having conversations with them, trying to get them to see that as a viable option and believe in it is what we're working on. The other thing which we have to ensure is once we achieve some level of success in being able to give these opportunities to our people, we have to make those examples successful. Because merely giving opportunities early and creating situations for burnout is also not not the story we want to tell. So ensuring that every such case we pick up becomes successful, becomes a success story, and therefore helps us in building the case for this kind of a change is what we are working on. So this is, I would say, the practice that I want to present as something which we are trying to do, which we think will help us in the long run.
Yeah, Chitra, maybe you can share your experiences.
Surely, and I'll start by sharing something which is a value for Yum Brands, which is called as Believe in All People. It actually starts by believing that everybody is capable, can grow, and has that trust. And how this is translated into all of us having that accountability for nurturing future leaders, it starts with having each one of us have a goal. So we carry a people grow a goal, we carry an unrivaled talent and culture goal, we carry a goal for growing internal talent as internal promotion or cross-training. So all of us are responsible, firstly, for this, and this is a practice which is deeply embedded, and that has helped us with that discipline and consistency that is needed. Second thing is, what do we really want from our leaders? Because all of us want to grow, right? But defining what we need from them is extremely important and helpful. It starts by the functional skills that are needed for each one of us to deliver on our goals, are the reason why we exist in that organization. But along with that, how you lead is extremely important, and for that we have a very robust and again a deeply embedded simple framework called SMART, Heart and Courage that each one of us follow at different levels. And the third aspect is the aspect of culture. Each one of us are responsible for being the culture builder. So really defining these three aspects for the leaders has been helpful for me to understand as an employee, how do I nurture and I grow? To support this, there are processes that are run regularly, which include bench planning, which include potential assessment, as well as all of us really discussing how can we help this employee grow. Collectively, this adds up, and what we've seen is what gets measured gets done, and what gets done gets recognized, which is again a very powerful aspect of Yum culture and values, and what gets recognized gets repeated. And that's the power that we have seen within the organization across different countries and across different layers.
Yeah, I think next is GRV. GRV, yes, runs an organization which is 3 lakh crores in turnover, and maybe about the same number in terms of people, all the people put together. And let us hear how he's kind of, worked towards harnessing the human potential there to create leaders.
Thank you, Venkat, and good morning to each one of you here. Privileged to be sharing the dais with such eminent people. I was listening to them, and I was listening to Mr. Venkat Raman earlier in the morning, and he will indulge me for a few minutes because this could go on for a few minutes. So I think I have a slightly different take on the word leadership. I think if we just talk about the upper echelons of the organization, we may be missing a trick here, because I think leadership in its own word or its meaning is really building the confidence at each level in terms of what it really means to that individual in the sphere of influence or contribution that that person is. And therefore, I would structure my response by segmenting the population in retail, and I'm sure what I'm talking about is applicable to most of the people in the audience. And I was saying that we have people at the store, the associate, the store manager level, that level, and then we have the middle management level, maybe in the merchandising stream or in the office functions. And then we have, of course, the business leaders. So in Reliance Retail, we are having customized interventions for each of these three different types of segments of people. And between the last MMR and this MMR, and our philosophy is that it doesn't just start at the top, that we can't start saying that, okay, now here is a person who's like, 5 years from becoming the CEO, so let's start honing him from becoming the CEO. I think it's a whole supply chain. It starts right from the very beginning. And between the last MMR and this MMR, I think I'm very proud to announce and introduce to all the people here a significant initiative we took, which is right at the grassroots level, which we call as Retail Samarth. And this is an app which is available to each one of you, even if you try now on Play Store or iOS. And what we have done is that we are making sure that each and every store associate that we are hiring today is retail skills certified. Okay, so even before he or she gets an appointment letter from Reliance Retail, he's pre-certified in retail skills. And these are company agnostic, but industry specific skills that we are imparting on a online mode, on a self-certification mode. And that's where we are trying to set the mindset towards this great industry that we all belong to, saying that so that you know where you are entering, right? And all of us face this challenge in terms of a post-purchase dissonance and a early exit kind of a thing, We're trying to say that if you are meant for this industry, you should at least know what you are getting into. And we are certified. We've certified 150,000 people so far in the last 7 months. We hire 9,000 people a month. So there are enough and more supply available for each one of you if you wish. That is, if you kind of recognize the Reliance Retail certificate which comes with it, right? We are also working with RASCI now to see that if we can do some kind of a joint certification to make it more industry acceptable. But that is how we start the journey. And then at the store level, we of course have those step-up programs that we run in terms of making store associates, department managers and store managers. We are also running what we now call as a cross-learning kind of stream, that what Mr. Venkatraman spoke about. How does a store manager or a department manager or even an associate after doing certain stint can aspire for becoming a merchandiser, right? So we are having streams identified, learning path identified, and we are encouraging it, and we are like, currently we are running offline programs for that, but very shortly we'll be doing all that online. Because there are 3 or 4 philosophical aspects which are driving each one of our programs, which is in terms of agility, resilience, and digital dexterity. Because tomorrow's world is all about digital, and how do we kind of imbibe those kind of practices in each of our interventions is really key. When we come to the middle management level, of course, we have we are spotting talent at a young age. We are running a program which we call as Talent Accelerator Program. The key criteria for that to enter that program is that you have to be below 30 years of age. And then we are blessed that we have an association with Geo Institute, who are young institute in there, but very, very capable in the fields of artificial intelligence and digital marketing. But apart from this, they have tie-ups across the world in terms of access to faculties. And we are assigning our people to go through a structured 1-year program and then give them enough and more responsibilities to hone them up for higher leadership responsibilities. I heard Mr. Venkatraman spoke about women and women in leadership. We run a very, very powerful program called We Women Leaders, and very happy to say that we've run this now for 3 years or more. And many people, I think the key critical takeaway from that program is not whether you get promoted in terms of grade, but it is in terms of how do you develop self-confidence within yourself, that even those kind of mental barriers that you have, which are perhaps gender specific, how can you climb over them and achieve something bigger? When we come to the higher levels, what we have done is that we have taken coaching as a route, okay? And we are tied up with Coaching Foundation of India and also several ICF certified coaches who are taking our senior and senior to top leadership kind of people, individual leadership, individual coaching kind of sessions, so that we develop, at that level, how do we kind of do. So these are some of the practices that I can, top of the mind tell you what we are doing. And as I said, it's across the spectrum, and some of the key themes there is really in terms of how do I kind of apart from the process and product and those kind of trainings, how do I really bring in the soft elements into it, the people, the softer elements as well as people practices, and how do I make people more, less task-oriented but more heart-to-heart conversation-led. One of the initiatives that we've recently started at the top level is really reverse mentoring. We are still experimenting with it, some initial success, but we have a journey to go. But I think it's a very, very interesting field, because retail is such a, it's a field full of young people, right? All of our companies, the average age would be 25, 26. So how much more, I was a little surprised when Mr. Venkatraman asked that question, how many people know BAE? And I first thought that he was talking about BAY. Otherwise, I would have immediately raised my hand, because I've been watching this series called Call Me BAE, and it's like a fantastic series. And I could relate to much of it, what's happening, even though I'm not that age. But yeah, it's such a wonderful world, and there's so much to learn from young people, and so much to share. So I hope I haven't taken too much time.
I think you walk the talk. You yourself are a certified coach, right? You got yourself certified. Your chief learning officer got certified. I
Yes,
think
yes,
that's important. I think
That's
that's
right.
where task orientation to heart orientation can take the long steps. That's what it is. So, what is the diversity ratio today?
Well, same challenges as anyone else, but in fashion and grocery at the store level, we are above 35% odd. But when it comes to leadership, we are trying to endeavor much and more. Currently, we are at around 15 to 17%, which is something which I think we can do much better on.
I'm sure you'd have more women leaders coming, and with your programs concentrated towards women, I think that's what's going to help. So let us hear Harsh. Harsh today leads a group, Landmark Group, where I was associated earlier, and they've done a lot of good things, continue to do a lot of good things. Harsh, please tell us what you do at Landmark.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Well, this is not something unique because everybody does in their own way, but something that we are really proud of, and I want to talk about this, is called LLA, Landmark Leadership Academy, which we launched about 6 or 7 months back. Prior to that, there were leadership programs that were happening in bits and pieces. So every business and Landmark has, multiple concepts or businesses. So the programs used to happen, the leadership development, talent management used to happen within the businesses. And what the leadership came together and we said, listen, this is one company, so why are we developing leaders differently? The leaders need to be for the group company and not for the business. So which is how the LLA or the Landmarks Leaders Academy, actually the concept, took birth. About 6-7 months back, and under this, we have 2 programs, which are flagship programs. One is the Leaders League, and second is Young Turks. One is for the more senior folks, one is, for the emerging leaders. There were 3 or 4 key principles, that I want to talk about, which kind of differentiates this particular approach. So firstly, we said, the nomination into this program is not going to be, simply that your manager recommends and you get into the program. You have to go through the talent assessment, you'll have to clear certain barriers. So there is a lot of rigorous process in terms of how you get selected or nominated into this program, as opposed to just one nomination, self-nomination or a manager nomination. So that was one thing, that's there. Secondly, we said this is not going to be a 2-day or a 4-day workshop, because leadership development is not a 2-day or a, even a 1 week or a 1 month work. It has to go on for almost a full 1 year. So these programs they go on for 10 months. Today we are somewhere in the 6th or 7th month after the launch. And we've identified specific competencies for the leadership. And these programs, every month, there's an intervention or a program for about 2 days, and there's a topic. So typical topics could be, finance for non-finance, or even the entire end-to-end business from concept to selling, and so on, the soft skills, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very systematic way of looking at development over the full 1 year. The third thing that we also said is to bring in the entire seriousness into the program, one has to attend the full program. Well, we understand that probably one session you can miss because of certain things, personal, home, or whatever. But if you miss more than 2 sessions, then you cannot continue in the same program. You'll have to go next year, you'll have to come back again. So that is to instill the seriousness from the participants, because there's a lot of investment happening from the company. The fourth and the last one is, it's just not a 1-year intervention and then you just leave it there. After that, we really want to track, and this is what we've done in the past programs as well, when they were happening at the business level, is what has happened to the people who have gone through these programs. So program itself is not the end, it is just a means. And then you look at what has happened to these people. You know, have they grown in the career? Have they moved laterally? What has really happened? What value has this program brought into them? Because that's really the culmination of the entire effort and the investment and so on. So that's in nutshell, I would say, the LLA, which, you know, we are all proud about. The second thing, which I'll just mention in one sentence, not spend much time, you know, similar to I was listening to GRV and he was talking about the retail side. Similarly, and I'm sure, Venkat, some of it was started by you, is, you know, there is a very systematic assessment and development center for the frontline staff. I'm happy to say that, you know, more than 50% of the store management team, which is there in any of the Landmark store, has come from within and this process. So I'll not spend much time on that, but that's another very elaborate process which we use to develop the leadership nurture and develop leadership at the store level. Thank you.
I think that's very important. I think what we call IGP, right, moving people within. So even if you take any sport, a basketball team or a cricket team, you always have a bench, right? You have to prepare for the eventuality. I think that's what is important. I think great, Harsh. Let us hear Nandini. She's with Metro, and it's something footwear, and they've grown also very big. And how have you been managing your people?
So I think on this panel, I have, what I would say is I handle a business which is niche, and why I say niche is it's very different. Footwear is very, very different from any other category. We don't have people who are willing to touch the feet of others, and that's what footwear is all about when you're selling. And the biggest challenge, this is many, many years ago with the Maliks, was to get people on board. And one of the things we do is we do not have qualification as a criteria for hiring. Because the requirement is to touch people's feet. So that's how hiring happens at Metro Brands. And this leads to another big issue. A lot of them do not know to read and write as much as probably graduates and 12th pass, 10th pass. So when we put something together from a leadership pipeline perspective, we need to keep these things in mind. And I always tell, even when I was earlier with Landmark, I always used to say that if the frontline employees were either had the intent or the opportunity to learn and grow, why would they be working in the store, right? Because it's one of the most menial jobs in retail. And whatever we put together, the idea is to ensure that they learn from it in the simplest way possible. So what we do at Metro Brands is, earlier, it's a legacy company, you all know that. So earlier it was the manager was trained, had to go through becoming a Malia man, which is typically a stock boy, and then a salesman, and then an assistant store manager, and then a manager. So this was a must. Nobody could be hired in between. This was the process followed. Of course, as the years went by, it became difficult to follow this set process. So when I took over 3 years ago, what we did is we converted these learnings into video modules. Nothing where they have to learn from reading or writing, but it was completely video-based. We had managers trained on it as well. So people go through these video modules, they learn the processes, they learn the selling skills and customer service skills through this process. I can proudly say till date, we do not hire managers from outside. We all, 100% of our managers are grown from within, and we've been able to sustain that until now. Of course, now we do see challenges because managers are the ones who hire the teams below. So sometimes there's a lot of bias that comes in. So what we have done is we have created a filtration process in the system which is completely unbiased. So if a person has served a certain number of years, the person has been a star performer into 3 areas over a period of time, and of course we have an age criteria there. So when this is met, they go through the training. Once they've completed the training, they are interviewed by a panel, which is a combination of HR and the business. And once they clear the panel, they are on the bench for any store that comes up. So this is a very simple process that we follow. Like I said earlier, it was completely manual. We have automated this entire process now. And we don't want our employees to read too much because it's a pain for them, and hence we've worked on having a lot of video modules. So this is broadly for the front end that we've done. And for the back end, we've created learning journeys for every role. So we have bands basically. So for every band, we've created learning journeys. And we started rolling that out about 6 months ago. So it's still work in progress. But the idea is if people complete their learning journey, they get certified, and they can move on to the next learning journey, which will help them grow in terms of their, their individual growth as well as any opportunity that would come up in the organization. So that these are two things for the front end and back end that we've done.
I think amazing. I still remember when she used to be with Max. She had a Max career passport. Each of the employees. Okay, which actually, the employees' track record in terms of growth as well as training was mapped. So it's nice, and very glad to hear that all your managers are homegrown, which I think is very important. I think loyalty definitely brings in, and your kind of business, it needs that also. So now maybe we'll understand from Harsh, how do you manage employees who are consistently exceeding expectations?
I think the answer is simple and difficult both. Simple because we all know what is, in theory, what needs to be done, but in practice, these things don't happen. So I will not sit here and say that we do 100% of what I'm saying. There are still gaps, but in pockets, it happens well. The very first thing, I think, in my view, which we should do and we do, in certain pockets, definitely, is to let the employee know that they are doing well. In most cases, the employees don't even know, and how many times we have heard that at the point of resignation, somebody goes back and say, you're a great performer, which the employee did not know. So I think the first and the foremost thing which we try and do is to communicate, saying that, yes, you're doing well in a systematic manner, appreciate their efforts, encourage their efforts. After that first step, to me, then there are two groups of people. One is people who do consistently well, but they are kind of good for that job. They may not have potential to grow. So for this section or for this group of people, I think it is important to keep them motivated, add some roles and responsibilities in a manner which they can absorb, because you don't want to, like a classical thing, you don't want to convert your best salesman into a worst sales manager. So, at that pace it has to go. Of course, the financial, monetary things, need to be there. The second section of people, which is more the, your future leaders, I would say, is where people are not only consistently doing well, but they also have the potential. So that is where you need to invest in terms of how you can grow, this set of people into the future leaders of your company. And that is the Landmark Leaders Academy that I talked about, which is more focused on that set of people. So yeah, I would say that what we do generally is, is A, communication, B, appreciate, encourage, so that the performance remains and improves. And third, where people show potential, also just handhold and take them to their potential.
Very true. I think with Gen Z or the COVID generation which is going to come, they're all going to look at instantaneous recognition. I think they can't wait for a year to see their salary move up or some monetary benefit or some recognition. So I think we're going to have very interesting times ahead with the next generation. So going back to GRV, I think Reliance Retail today, we see every other day you pick up some company, you acquire, you merge, and it's growing. So how do you manage the aspirations of people, of companies whom you acquire or you merge, and how do you provide growth for them?
Well, it's an interesting challenge, yeah. And you're right. Over the last couple of years, we've gone ahead and kind of plug the gaps wherever we thought there were category gaps or capability gaps in terms of retail processes through acquisitions of companies which were experts in that area. So when it comes to people practices, I think, or even the organizational integration piece, I think the two words which are key here and which has kind of led our way of approaching this issue is our independence and respect. So we believe or we understand that when we are the size of, let's say, Reliance Industries or Reliance Retail, and typically the acquisitions or the mergers have been of very, very small, agile, nimble companies. So there is always this, this impression saying that there is this big daddy and are we going to get trampled all over? I think that's the first mindset that we have to and the responsibility of that lies with us, because we are the, so to say, the bigger brother here. And I think that's what we've tried to do by, first of all, assuring every such company that their practices and policies, except for a few which we've set certain boundary conditions, for example, in terms of compliance issues and law-related issues, where there is no transigence which is perhaps accepted. But otherwise, we have sustained their individual freedom in terms of how they are operating even today. It is a challenge for our operating people because we run every system in terms of the same technological backbone across the organization. So it's a challenge for our team members how to manage those varied kind of policies and processes on a single system. But so far we've been trying to do that. Slowly we try to merge those practices, and they also believe that some of the things are better this side, and some of the practices we are picking up from them and trying to establish it for our larger base. On the leadership side, there are transitions both ways. For example, the CEO of a company called Find, or ShopSense Technologies it's called, he pretty much operates as the group CTO for our retail group of companies. Our pharma business is pretty much led by the people or the companies which we have acquired. On the other hand, for example, we have got our cultural ambassadors and business ambassadors in terms of leadership positions for Metro Cash and Carry, for example. So it works both ways, and it's definitely a very interesting challenge for an HR professional to understand where those aspirations are, where those apprehensions are, and to deal with them sensitively, not ruffle too much, and make sure that everyone is comfortable.
I understand, it's easier said than done. So great. Asim, how does your organization, Arvind, plan the process of succession plan? I mean, it's, I think, very critical.
To state the obvious, I think succession plan has two objectives, right? From a board point of view, they want to know it's a risk mitigation plan. They want to see continuity. From an employee's point of view, it ought to segue and should be a part of what gives them assurance that there is a career opportunity that they would get within the organization and would get to grow within. I see the succession plan process agenda as having three parts or three aspects. One, and probably the most important, is what do we set it up as? Because I believe no matter how much is there in semantics and spoken words, it may tend to cause as many expectations as it may cause anxiety, because there are people in my team who may hear it as a replacement plan. So if we have to make the succession process successful, getting the leaders to understand what is it that we are trying to accomplish and how do they play a role, a very active and very open role in the process, and what does it mean for them, has to be a continuing conversation. It cannot be a document written and shared. We have to keep talking about it with them and keep sensing and reading between the lines to see if it is landing correctly. So the consensus building around the process and people knowing why we are doing what we are doing is important. The second has to do with the process itself, and I think there we emphasize more on leaning towards the conversations and alignments than going for a very hard assessment kind of a model. because the agreement on the names that we are going to consider as a part of our succession list, to me, is more important than quote unquote us being objective. And don't get me wrong, objectivity is important. This should not come at the expense of confirmation or conformance bias for that matter. But at the same time, if we want the selected leaders or selected list of people to eventually be successful as leaders, the people who are going to groom them, mentor them, and work with them have to be aligned with those with those decisions. And therefore, the alignment part has to take precedence over the correctness or accuracy of measurement is where we lean. So that's on the process side. It involves a lot of conversations with both all the stakeholders on one side as well as the involved people themselves. Also, in the process of conducting this exercise, we need to tone down and not make it a big deal, because from the employee's point of view, it has to, as I said, segue really clearly into the career development plan. I mean, instead of getting them worried about where they stand on the succession plan, how quickly they need to move, who do they need to impress, those are not the questions that you want to leave them with. We want to leave our employees with questions like, what are the kind of opportunities I would get? What makes me capable to be considered for the next level of opportunities that would exist in the organization? And what should I do as an employee, and when should I go and grab opportunities? So I think as long as we keep the conversations with employees in the right frame, which allows them to know what they should do and in the right direction, I think that is a thing that we have to take care in our conversations. And last but not the least, we have to measure success. So while the typical measures would involve how many positions we have quote unquote filled internally, but we need to go beyond and also check whether all those decisions that we made in terms of giving opportunities to our internal people, how successful they are. Because in the interest of making the succession plan successful, we don't want to end up taking wrong decisions and thereby rob the process of the validity that it needs. So those are the few things we do.
Okay, thanks, Asim. So, Chitra, you're in a QSR business. So, basically, if you look at it, you engage a lot of part-timers. How do you manage the aspirations of those part-timers, and how is the whole process, their career prospects in the organization?
Well, to respond to that, let me share a thought which has been going on in my mind. And this is a conversation between me and my mom, and don't judge my age basis this. She was like, there was a time when whatever food was put on the table, you would have. There were no questions asked. And now, my niece or my nephew will have a point of view. They will have Zomato or Swiggy or their own preferences. And I think this behavior has shown up in aspirations in how what we are seeing in the workforce, right? They want variety, fast, immediate, personalized, and you name it and it's there. And the same shows up as a challenge for part-timers or any talent that we have. And I have to also acknowledge that we haven't found 100% solve for it. We have made improvisations, we've made improvements, we've had some pockets of excellence, but we're still learning. So I wouldn't have like a quick fix or a straight answer for this one. But a couple of things that we've been able to do is, and I'll go back to what I've been hearing since morning as the theme for MMR, which is we've elevated what we need in our career development framework as well as the skills we want to build. So whether it's a part-timer or it's any other talent, there are changes that we have made. And in a career development framework, which was very linear earlier, it has become very matrixed. There is something known as developmental roles that we introduced with the help of our amazing franchise partners, where you have a baseline, but after that you can go into different career streams to create that variety, to create that option, and open up more avenues for people. So that's one change we've been able to do. Again, the kind of digital skills we needed earlier versus what we need now at every level is so different. So we have started introducing that much earlier, which again helps me get ready to grow and meet aspirations of people. So that's one part. The second part is engagement, which has its own relationship, has its own tacit aspect, but there is a process to it. And more often than not, in your exit interviews, we hear, I'm leaving for career opportunities. Firstly, why should I be getting to hear it then? Why can't I fix that earlier, and we all have dearth of, we all need people, we all need skills, we all need talent. So how do you engage proactively? And that is where the role of the manager, the role of the coach becomes extremely important, and we've invested in that. And this is capability building across levels, which has helped. And the third one is empower. So how can I really help my part-timers as well as individual, the rest of the talent get empowered to at least say, I want to grow, at least give them that voice. So part-timers certainly have an option, to come on board to get a career. At the same time, what we have realized that as part-timers, they have certain unique skill set which can better fit in to some roles that help them. So just finding that fitment has helped, and then opening up these avenues for them has been helpful.
Great. I think great initiatives. I'm sure you're going to succeed, most of them. No, coming to Nandini, I think you're from a traditional family-owned company. I think now growing really spontaneous. I mean, really in good speed, high speed. So how do you manage the aspirations of the old employees and the new employees? Because it always happens when you recruit new employees, they either come in a higher salary, in a bigger role, they're much younger than the older. So that you must be going through every day, right? Well, how do you manage that?
It's a tough question to answer, but I'll kind of give you a perspective. I think we say family, but then that's a type of leadership, right? Be it a corporate or be it a family-run organization, it's a type of leadership, and there are certain best practices that have been there from a legacy perspective. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to convert those best practices into a more modernized way of doing things. So to give you an example, earlier, if someone was tenured, they were automatically eligible to move to the next level. What we've tried to do is, we've tried to look at how do we bring in a process saying tenure is not the only way to identify your high posts or people who can move to the next level, but we also need to look at the skills. So what I spoke to you about earlier was that from a subjective way of looking at things, we've tried to objectify the whole process. So one way of addressing the new versus old is that we've kind of made it more objective in the way we identify people who can move to the next level. So that's from a career growth perspective. From a salary perspective, most of our old timers are in a very different model. They are on a commission model, and that excites them. But when we hire people from outside, they are not willing to come on a commission model. So we are able to manage aspirations from that perspective, because we say if you come on commission model, then you're able to get that much more. But if you come on a regular model which is available in the market, then this is what we have to offer you. So we are lucky that we are able to manage at least within the sales team. For the others, case-to-case basis, we have to manage it with the respective heads of departments. Some of the heads of departments are very particular that, no, I don't want to hire people who are at a higher CTC than my existing employees. So then we have to have conversations with them, try to convince them that that may not be possible, and we have to relook at the whole process on how to manage that department. There are other HODs who are willing to explore it, and they have conversations with their old-timers to manage that. So of course it's a challenge. I won't say it's not a challenge, but we try to manage case-to-case basis and depending on which department it is. But for the sales team, it is very simple. It's commission versus hiring on a regular model. Yeah.
So on the regular model, it will be variable pay, which will get increased. Vis-a-vis a commission, right? Anyway, good. So I think good discussion from the panel. We have another 2 to 3 minutes. Can we take 2 questions from the audience, please? Yeah. You can put up your hand. Yes. So you can introduce yourself and then.
Thanks, Venkat. My name is Peshwa Acharya. I am, of course, ex-Reliance Retail 2005 to 2011, one of the first CMOs of Reliance Retail. And now I am with TCG Group. You may not know, but basically I can tell the brand name. Garden Vareli is one of our brands. Okay, so I have two questions, but they can answer one, whatever, depending on time. My first question is that, as the chief people officers, do you see any transferability of skills between retail, e-commerce, and quick commerce? And I'm talking not of the business leaders, more of middle management. Is that actually happening in organizations? That's my first question. And the second question, I think actually I wanted to ask, GRV has already hinted on that, which is reverse mentoring.
I think we are running out of time.
Sorry.
Maybe we'll restrict to one question. Which
Thank
you
you.
think is more important, I think?
No, I think this is it's a very specific
And who
question.
do you want
Whoever.
to answer?
All are stalwarts, so they can all answer.
Maybe GRV, you can take that?
I think, at the fundamental level, whether it's like store-based retail or e-commerce or quick commerce, we are all cousins living in the same house, okay? And I think at the base level, again, the skill sets are pretty similar. And even if you want to search for distinct kind of skill sets for industry, I think all the three industries, including store-based retail, in my opinion, are very, very young. So there's a dearth of talent out there. You ask any one of us, there are people everywhere, but not the right skills to hire, okay? So willy-nilly you will see transferability. People are also very dynamic, very, they also see what are the kind of trends developing, and I'm sure they are picking up skills as we speak in terms of how do you move from one kind of a sector to another, whether you call it. So in my opinion, from an HR perspective, from people perspective, I think the lines are very fuzzy between the three.
Thank you, GRV. I think we've covered most of the important topics you would have had in mind, right? I think each one brought their perspective. Thank you, panel. I think we had a wonderful session. I think it's time up, and they've already showed me the red flag. So maybe we can take it offline to whomsoever you would like to have over coffee or lunch. You could discuss with them. Thank you, panel, and thank you, Rai, for this great opportunity.